Welcome to this rather unusual interview setting. Today, we've traveled not just across space-time, but across time. We're back in the 1930s, sitting with one of the founding figures of modern economics. Yesterday, I gave him something curious, a document called the Bitcoin White Paper. He read it overnight, and today, he's agreed to speak with us. What does one of history's greatest economic minds think of this digital invention? Let's find out. Welcome, Mr. Keynes. It's an honor to have you with us in this rather unorthodox interview setting. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this white paper from the future. The financial world today is undergoing a radical experiment in decentralization. Through our conversation, we hope to re-examine this experiment's meaning and risks from a lens shaped by an entirely different era.
I'm pleased to take part. Frankly, I went through the document titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system last night, along with its related materials. I must admit, there is a kind of intellectual elegance to it, though perhaps more in theory than in practice. But let me be clear, it reads less like a monetary constitution and more like a digital epitaph for the gold standard. A system with fixed supply, no central bank, no lender of last resort, and no sovereign guarantee. Yet you call it money? To me, it resembles a more elaborate version of a beauty contest. People chase it not for any intrinsic or stable value, but because they believe others will irrationally chase it too, and hope to exit before the fools realize the game.
Your beauty contest metaphor remains widely cited today to warn against market irrationality. But some crypto advocates push back. They argue that when central banks expand money supply, what we now call quantitative easing, they are subtly diluting the purchasing power of all savers. Isn't that, in a sense, a form of centralized value manipulation? Some would even say a systemic default against the public?
To call it a default is to miss the broader picture entirely. It wasn't a betrayal of value. It was a desperate act to preserve the system itself. We weren't devaluing money arbitrarily. We were preventing deflation, mass unemployment, and the collapse of social order. When the economy is a ship battered by a storm, you don't stand on principle. You patch the hull and steer to safety. This is not a laboratory of algorithms. It's a vessel full of lives. Let me be more direct. Money is not a commodity. It is a social contract. It's an extension of law, taxation, and state authority. People accept government-issued currency not because of blind faith, but because they know it will settle their taxes tomorrow. That state-backed obligation gives fiat money its anchor of value. Your so-called digital gold, by contrast, detaches itself from this foundation. Aside from speculative greed and a dream of future utility, what truly sustains it?
That's a sharp distinction. Indeed, crypto assets have yet to establish the kind of sovereign debt-based consensus you describe. But their supporters would argue that's exactly the point. They were born out of distrust in state credit. They claim that the value lies in mathematically enforced scarcity, in code that cannot lie, a ledger that can't be tampered with. It promises total self-custody, no arbitrary inflation, no unlawful seizure, irreversible transfers. Do you see any future where such hard trust, built in code, could rival or even replace the soft trust of sovereign institutions?
A ledger without courts, regulators, or arbitration? That sounds less like progress and more like an anarchist's utopia. What happens when fraud occurs? When contracts break? Where is your Supreme Court? And when liquidity dries up, who plays the lender of last resort? You chant, code is law, as if that solves everything. But in reality, it avoids the very questions that matter most.